Have you ever felt like you're chasing something? Success, happiness, approval, only to realize that the more you run, the further it slips away? Like trying to hold on to water, the tighter you grip, the more it escapes through your fingers? Buddhism teaches us a paradox. Sometimes, the greatest peace is found not in getting more, but in letting go. What if everything you've been searching for, clarity, freedom, inner stillness, has been with you all along, buried beneath the weight of things you don't actually need? Today, let's uncover the hidden burdens you might be carrying and explore how releasing them can transform your life. And stay with me, because the fourth thing we let go of might just be the key to unlocking a richer, more peaceful existence. Visual. A lotus slowly blooming in golden morning light, revealing its untouched center. If this journey resonates with you, join me. Subscribe to Lotus Light Teachings, and together, let's step onto a path of wisdom, clarity, and deep inner peace. 1. The drama of others. Free yourself from emotional baggage. There was a time in my life when I felt like I was carrying everyone else's problems on my back. It wasn't just the big things. Helping a friend through a breakup, listening to a coworker's endless complaints, worrying about a sibling who never seemed to get their life together. It was the little things. 2. The passive-aggressive sigh of a stranger, the tension in someone's voice, the way a friend would casually mention that they were going through a lot, and then expect me to pull them out of their storm. Carried it all. Their pain became my pain. Their worries sat like stones in my pockets. And it wasn't that I didn't want to help. I did. Cared deeply. But somewhere along the way, I started to realize something unsettling. The weight wasn't mine to carry. One evening, I found myself staring at the ceiling, completely exhausted. I had just spent 3 hours on the phone with a friend who was venting, again, about a toxic relationship she refused to leave. I had tried everything. Listening, advising, empathizing, even getting angry on her behalf. And yet, here we were. The same conversation, the same cycle. After I hung up, I felt drained. Not just physically, but spiritually. My mind was buzzing with frustration. My body felt heavy. But my friend? She had probably just gone to bed, unburdened, having transferred all her weight onto me like a traveler dumping their luggage onto an unsuspecting porter. That night, I remembered a Buddhist story I had once heard. One that suddenly made perfect sense. 2 monks were traveling together when they reached a river. There, a woman stood, hesitant to cross. The older monk, without a second thought, lifted her and carried her to the other side. Hours later, as they continued their journey, the younger monk, still troubled, finally spoke. "Brother, we are not supposed to touch women. Why did you carry her?" The older monk smiled. "I set her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" And just like that, I saw myself in that young monk, carrying burdens that weren't mine to hold. The next morning, I made a quiet decision. I was going to set it down. Now, don't get me wrong. This didn't mean I was going to stop caring. Compassion, after all, is at the heart of Buddhism. But compassion does not mean absorption. There is a difference between being present for someone and being consumed by them. For the first time, I started asking myself a simple but profound question. Is this my suffering to carry? If a friend was going through something, I would listen, but I wouldn't attach myself to their pain. If a coworker was in a bad mood, I would offer kindness, but I wouldn't take it personally. If a family member made the same mistake for the 100th time, I would wish them wisdom, but I would let them learn on their own. Something unexpected happened when I made this shift. I felt lighter. My mind was clearer, my heart more open. I was able to show up for people in a way that was genuine, instead of burnt out and resentful. Because the truth is, when we carry other people's burdens, we are not actually helping them. We are robbing them of the lesson they need to learn. Imagine a butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon. If you cut it open, trying to make it easier, the butterfly never develops the strength it needs to fly. The struggle is part of its transformation. And so it is with people. We cannot take away their pain. We are not meant to. All we can do is walk beside them, hold space for them, and trust that they have their own journey to take. I leave you with this. What are you still carrying that is not yours to hold? And more importantly, are you ready to set it down? 2. The fear of saying no. Protect your energy. There was a time when I thought saying yes was the key to being a good person. Good friends say yes when you need them. Good employees say yes to extra work. Good family members say yes, even when they don't want to. But then, one day, I woke up and realized I was exhausted. Not just physically, but emotionally, mentally, even spiritually. Felt like my life wasn't my own anymore. It belonged to everyone else. The friend who always needed help moving apartments, the coworker who somehow managed to delegate their tasks to me, the family members who assumed I'd always be available. I remember one evening so clearly. The sky was a deep shade of indigo, and the wind carried the scent of jasmine from my small balcony garden. I had just finished an exhausting day at work, and all I wanted to do was sit in silence with a book and a cup of tea. The kind of evening that feels like a small gift to yourself. But then my phone buzzed. A friend, one who only seemed to call when she needed something, was asking for a favor. Not an emergency, nothing urgent, just another thing she expected me to take on because I always did. I stared at the message, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. Every part of me wanted to say, I'm so sorry, but I can't tonight. But then came the familiar wave of guilt. She'll think I don't care. She'll be upset. What if she stops reaching out to me altogether? And so, like countless times before, I sighed, pushed my plans aside, and said, sure, I can help. The evening that should have been mine was gone. Again. And here's the part that hit me later. She wasn't the problem. The problem was me. I had trained people to believe that I would always be available. That my time, my energy, my well-being came second to theirs. That my yes was guaranteed. The Buddha once taught about right speech. Not just speaking truthfully, but speaking with authenticity and intention. And I realized that by saying yes when I truly wanted to say no, I was being dishonest, not just with others, but with myself. I had a choice to make. Either I continued saying yes out of guilt, fear, or obligation, or I learned the power of a well-placed no. It wasn't easy. The first time I told someone no, I felt like I had just committed some kind of crime. A friend asked if I could help her plan an event. I had deadlines, barely any time to breathe, and yet my instinct was still to say yes. But instead, I took a deep breath and said, I really wish I could, but I just don't have the capacity right now. And then I waited, bracing myself for disappointment, for rejection. Her response, no worries, I totally get it. That was it. No drama, no anger, just acceptance. And that's when it hit me. Most of the time, we fear saying no more than the other person fears hearing it. Over the next few weeks, I started practicing. Can you take on this extra project? I appreciate you asking, but my plate is full right now. We're all going out. Come with us. Thanks for the invite. I'm gonna sit this one out and rest. Can you help me with something later? I wish I could, but I really need some time to myself today. Each time I said no, something unexpected happened. The world didn't end. My friends didn't abandon me. My career didn't collapse. Instead, I felt lighter, freer. I started noticing something else, too. When I did say yes, it was because I genuinely wanted to. And that made my yes mean something again. Imagine your energy is like a bowl of water. Every time you say yes to something you don't want to do, it's like someone taking a sip from your bowl. If you never stop to refill it, eventually you'll be empty. But when you set boundaries, when you protect your time and your peace, you ensure that when you do give, you give from a place of abundance, not exhaustion. Buddhism teaches that peace is not found in always saying yes, but in living in harmony with our own needs. Saying no is not selfish. It's an act of self-care. And when you honor your limits, you actually become more present, more generous, more yourself. So I'll ask you, when was the last time you said no? And more importantly, when will you give yourself permission to say it again? 3. Nostalgia for the past. Be present now. I used to believe that the best days of my life had already passed. That the golden moments, the ones filled with laughter, love, and a sense of boundless possibility, were behind me. I remember sitting alone one evening, flipping through an old photo album. The pages were slightly worn, the edges curling from years of being handled. Each photograph captured a version of me that no longer existed. There was one of me as a child, barefoot and wild-haired, chasing fireflies in my grandmother's garden. Another of me in my 20s, standing on a beach at sunset, my face glowing with the careless joy of youth. And then, there was a picture of me and my old friends at a cafe, frozen in time, as if we would always be that young, that happy, that together. A strange sadness crept in as I turned the pages. I found myself whispering, "I miss those days." The thought settled in my chest like a quiet ache. I had spent years longing for a past that was no longer within reach. Not just for the people and places, but for the version of myself that lived in those moments. I missed her. I missed the way she saw the world, the way she believed in endless possibilities. I wanted to go back, to step into those pictures, to relive the days when everything felt full and bright. But the past is a peculiar thing. It wears a soft glow in our memory, making it easy to forget the struggles, the uncertainties, the quiet loneliness that might have been there too. We remember the warmth, the highlights, the laughter, but not always the hard days, the heartbreaks, the moments of self-doubt. Nostalgia has a way of editing out the parts we wouldn't want to relive anyway. I once heard a Zen teaching, "You cannot step into the same river twice, for the river is always flowing." For a long time, I resisted that truth. I wanted to believe that I could hold onto the past, that somehow, through memory or longing, I could keep it alive. But the river had moved on, and so had I. One day, I visited my childhood home. The garden where I had chased fireflies was still there, but it looked different, smaller, quieter. My grandmother's chair, once the center of our evening gatherings, now sat empty. I closed my eyes and let myself feel the weight of it all. The past had not abandoned me. It had simply fulfilled its purpose. It had brought me here. I opened my eyes and noticed something. The sound of birds, the scent of damp earth after the rain, the golden hue of the afternoon light filtering through the trees. This moment, this very breath, was something my younger self had never experienced. And just like that, I realized the present is not lacking. It is only waiting to be seen. It's easy to get caught up in the stories of who we used to be, of the days we think were better. But longing for the past only steals from the beauty of now. Every wrinkle, every scar, every gray hair is not a loss. It's a mark of growth, a testament to a life fully lived. Instead of wishing to be the person I once was, I started embracing who I had become. I stopped looking at old photos with sadness and started seeing them as gifts. Reminders that every moment is fleeting, and that this, too, will one day be a memory. I began to ask myself, what if today is one of the moments I'll long for in the future? What if right now is just as precious, just as worthy? The past does not need to be relived for it to matter. It has already shaped us. But life is happening here, in this breath, in this heartbeat, in this fleeting golden afternoon. So, I ask you, what if the best days of your life aren't behind you, but right in front of you, waiting for you to notice them? For releasing emotional dependency, finding peace within. There was a time when I believed that happiness came from the people around me. If they loved me, if they stayed, if they thought highly of me, then I would be at peace. I would feel whole. I didn't realize how much of myself I had unknowingly handed over to others, piece by piece, like petals falling from a flower in the wind. It started subtly. A friend didn't reply to my message fast enough, and a shadow of anxiety crept in. Did I say something wrong? Are they upset with me? A loved one was distant, lost in their own thoughts, and I immediately assumed I had done something to cause it. Their moods became my moods. Their silence became my storm. And when they did show love, affection, or validation, it was like a wave of relief washing over me. But the relief never lasted long. It was like drinking from a cup that was never quite full. I always needed more, always scanning for reassurance, always hoping that the next kind word, the next moment of closeness, would finally make me feel secure. But it never did. One day, I found myself in a quiet park, sitting under an old oak tree. The wind rustled through the leaves, carrying the scent of earth and grass. I had come there to clear my mind, but my heart was heavy. A close friend had been pulling away, and I was drowning in questions. Why? What did I do? How can I fix it? As I sat there, watching a fallen leaf dance in the breeze, I remembered a Buddhist teaching I had once heard. You only suffer because you cling. Cling. That word lingered in my mind like an echo. I had been clinging, grasping at people, at relationships, at love, like a drowning person reaching for a life raft. I had convinced myself that their presence, their approval, their attention was what kept me afloat. But what if I had been swimming in shallow water all along? I closed my eyes and took a slow breath. What if my happiness didn't have to be tied to someone else? What if I could find peace within myself? The thought felt foreign, even a little frightening. But beneath the fear, there was something else, possibility. For the first time, I imagined what it would feel like to stand on my own emotional ground, to love others deeply, but not depend on them for my sense of self, to cherish relationships, but not fear their loss. That night, I sat alone with my thoughts. No distractions, no seeking reassurance from others. Just me, my breath, and the quiet presence of my own being. At first, it felt uncomfortable, like sitting in a silent room after years of noise. But then, something surprising happened. I felt light. I realized that I had spent so much time looking outward for happiness that I had never truly nurtured it from within. It was like planting a garden but forgetting to water my own roots. So I started small. I practiced being present with myself. Instead of filling every silence with conversation, I let myself sit with the quiet. Instead of seeking validation, I reminded myself of my own worth. Instead of fearing someone's absence, I focused on the peace that was always available right here, right now. Slowly, something shifted. I became less reactive. When a friend was distant, I didn't immediately assume it was about me. When someone pulled away, I let them go with love, trusting that we all have our own paths to walk. When validation came, I accepted it with gratitude, but I no longer needed it to feel whole. Buddhism teaches the middle path, not pushing people away, but not depending on them for our peace either. It is about balance, about loving deeply while still standing firmly in our own light. And so, I ask you, what would it feel like to release the grip of emotional dependency? To love without clinging, to be present without fear, to stand in your own wholeness, knowing that you have always been enough. Because the truth is, you were never incomplete to begin with. 5. Releasing the weight of the past, making space for new energy. There was a wooden box tucked away in the corner of my closet, one I hadn't opened in years. It sat there, silent, patient, collecting dust like an old story waiting to be revisited. One afternoon, as golden light filtered through my curtains and a cool breeze whispered through the open window, I found myself kneeling before it, fingers hesitating on the lid. I wasn't even sure what was inside anymore. Old letters? Forgotten souvenirs? Trinkets from a time that no longer belonged to me? Lifting the lid, I was met with a wave of memories. A faded postcard from a friend I had lost touch with. A small bracelet from an old love that had long since faded into a past life. A notebook filled with hopes and plans that never quite came to be. Each object held a whisper of a story, a version of myself that no longer existed. And yet I had kept them. I sat there for a long time, running my fingers over the objects, feeling the weight of them, not just in my hands, but in my heart. Why had I held onto these things for so long? Was it love? Was it nostalgia? Or was it fear? I once heard a Buddhist monk say, "If your hands are full, you cannot receive anything new." And as I looked at this box of memories, I realized something. I had been carrying the past with me, clinging to it like an anchor. I had convinced myself that these things connected me to something meaningful, but in truth, they were only keeping me from moving forward. I picked up the old bracelet and turned it over in my hand. It had once meant so much to me, a symbol of love, of a time when I had believed certain things would last forever. But now it felt like a shadow of something that was already gone. A part of me hesitated. What if letting go meant losing a part of myself? But another voice, softer yet stronger, whispered, "What if letting go means making room for something new?" I exhaled slowly and placed the bracelet into a small donation bag. One by one, I sorted through the objects in the box, keeping only what still brought me joy, what still aligned with the person I had become. The rest I let go. As I carried the donation bag out of my home, something shifted inside me. I felt lighter, as if I had released not just objects, but emotions, memories, and unspoken attachments that had been quietly weighing me down. And it wasn't just the physical things. I started noticing other clutter in my life too. Unfinished dreams that no longer resonated with me. Regrets that served no purpose but to remind me of what could have been. Even certain relationships that had long since drained me rather than uplifted me. I realized that clearing physical space was just the beginning. When we let go of what no longer serves us, we create space for something new. We allow fresh energy to flow into our lives. And in that space, we find clarity, freedom, and a sense of peace that cannot be found in the clutter of yesterday. So I ask you, as I once asked myself, what are you holding on to that is holding you back? And more importantly, are you ready to let it go? 6. Walking lightly, choosing the right companions on your path. There was a time when I believed that every relationship in my life had to be maintained, no matter what. If someone had been part of my story, even if they made me feel exhausted, guilty, or small, I thought it was my duty to keep them close. After all, wasn't loyalty one of the greatest virtues? Wasn't friendship about weathering every storm, no matter how much it drained me? It wasn't until I felt utterly depleted that I began to question this. I remember one particular evening. The rain was falling gently outside, a rhythmic tapping against the window, while the dim glow of a candle flickered on my desk. My phone vibrated, and I knew before I even looked that it was her. A friend I had known for years, someone who seemed to always be in crisis, always needing something. I hesitated, my fingers hovering over the screen. I already knew how the conversation would go. She would talk, I would listen. She would vent, I would soothe. She would unload, and I would absorb. And by the time the call ended, she would feel better and I would feel drained. It was in that moment, staring at my phone, that I heard a quiet voice inside me ask, "Why do you keep carrying this?" For years, I had convinced myself that I was being kind, that I was being a good friend. But was it kindness? Or was it fear? Fear of disappointing someone, of being seen as selfish, of letting go of something that had once been meaningful. But here's the thing. Not every relationship is meant to last forever. Some people come into our lives as teachers, as lessons, as fleeting companions on our journey. And just as the seasons change, so do the people who walk with us. Buddhism teaches us the importance of right association, the idea that the people we surround ourselves with influence our energy, our peace, our path. When we walk with those who uplift us, we grow. When we walk with those who drain us, we shrink. I thought about the relationships in my life that felt like a weight rather than a gift. The friendships that were built on obligation rather than joy. The ones where I always felt like I had to prove my worth, where I gave and gave but rarely received. And I realized it was okay to let them go. Not with resentment, not with anger, but with love. Because letting go isn't always about cutting people off. It's about making a conscious choice. A choice to protect your own energy. A choice to surround yourself with those who inspire you, who nourish you, who bring out the best in you. I thought of a Buddhist parable about a traveler carrying a heavy sack of stones. With every step, the weight slowed him down. Yet, when he finally stopped and set the sack down, he realized something profound. The stones were never his to carry. And so, that night, I made a quiet decision. I did not answer the phone. Instead, I sat in the candlelight, listening to the rain, letting the peace of the moment fill me. And in that silence, I understood something I wish I had known years before. The right people will walk beside you, not weigh you down. So I ask you, who are you walking with? And is it time to set some of those stones down? 7. Letting go of approval, living for yourself. I used to believe that if people didn't understand me, it meant I was doing something wrong. That if I explained myself well enough, if I carefully crafted my words, softened my edges, made sure I was agreeable, then surely everyone would accept me. Surely they would approve. But no matter how much I tried, it never seemed to be enough. There was always someone who disapproved, someone who raised an eyebrow at my choices, someone who thought I should have taken a different path. And so I would try again. Another explanation, another justification, another way of bending myself into a shape that might finally be accepted. It was exhausting. I remember one particular conversation with an old friend. The sky that evening was painted in soft hues of gold and lavender, the kind of sunset that makes you stop and breathe a little deeper. We were sitting outside a cafe, our cups of tea growing cold between us. She had asked me about a decision I had recently made, one that felt deeply right for me but didn't fit into what she thought my life should look like. "Are you sure about this?" she asked, her brow furrowed. "I mean, what if it doesn't work out?" I found myself launching into an explanation, laying out my reasons, my logic, my justifications, as if I were standing in a courtroom, presenting my case. But even as I spoke, I could feel it, that tightness in my chest, that familiar exhaustion. And then, something unexpected happened. I stopped mid-sentence. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I realized her approval would change nothing. If she agreed with me, would it make my decision any more valid? If she didn't, would it make it any less so? I sat back in my chair, exhaled, and for the first time, simply said, "I know this is the right path for me." And that was it. No further explanation, no defense, just the quiet, steady truth. There's a teaching from the Buddha that has stayed with me ever since. Your own self, as much as anybody in the universe, deserves your love and affection, not your explained self, not your approved self, just you as you are. I started paying attention to how often I felt the need to justify myself. The little moments, declining an invitation and feeling like I had to give a long-winded reason why, choosing something unconventional and bracing myself for criticism. Even the way I would soften my words, trying to make them more palatable so that no one would be uncomfortable. And I realized, seeking approval is a cage, a silent, invisible cage that keeps us trapped in the opinions of others. It keeps us small, keeps us afraid, keeps us endlessly explaining ourselves in hopes that one day we'll finally be understood. But what if we don't need to be understood by everyone? What if we could simply live? I started practicing this living without explanation, saying no without feeling guilty, making choices without seeking validation, trusting my own intuition without waiting for someone else to confirm it was right. It was uncomfortable at first. There were moments of doubt, moments when the silence after my choices felt deafening. But then, something beautiful happened. I felt free. Because here's the truth. You don't need permission to be yourself. Not everyone will understand you. Not everyone will agree with you. And that's okay. You are not here to fit into someone else's expectations. You are here to walk your own path. The next time you feel the urge to explain, to justify, to seek approval, pause. Ask yourself, do I truly need their validation? Or do I already know what's right for me? Then, take a deep breath and simply live. Because when you let go of the need for approval, you don't just find freedom. You find peace. Letting go is not about losing. It is about freeing yourself. Imagine your life without the weight of unnecessary worries. Imagine waking up each day unburdened by the expectations of others, free from regrets, free from the past. The Buddha taught that true peace is not something we find. It is something we allow. It is what remains when we stop clinging, stop resisting, and simply be. So, I leave you with this question. What are you ready to release today? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'd love to hear your reflections. And if this wisdom speaks to you, subscribe to Lotus Light Teachings, where each video is an invitation to step deeper into your own journey of peace, wisdom, and awakening. Visual. A monk walking into the horizon, his steps light, his path clear. The screen fades to the Lotus Light Teachings logo.